Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Kelly, Dirty Birdy from Emergency Encounters. Yes, also a fellow member of the North American Dogman Project, has found his way in through the darkness of the Fox Den with some gifts for me. Yes, this is going to be a really epic one. Absolutely delicious. Thank you for bringing me some gifts and helping me revamp myself. Now, without further ado, it is time for Kelly and myself to take a walk into the madness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, again, you are tuning in to LordeStarfox Radio and another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy. Kelly, Dirty Birdy, a bi-weekly host, has already found his way through the darkness and into the Fox Den to set up the late night fire for us as we again burn some timber into the early hours of the morning, figuring out what the heck is going on with Skinwalker Ranch. You are now officially in the stomping ground of the Midnight Society. Kelly, my guy, what's good, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right so far. Waiting for spring to actually get here, but you know how it is. It's Idaho. You'll have like 3 days of 70-degree weather, and then you're right back to the 40s and snow. So.
Well, if it makes you feel any better right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm looking outside to snow, and we have a nice few inches that has decided to come down, even though the other day it was like 50 degrees. So I totally get you, man.
Oh, I know. I hate it. Well, I don't hate it. I should be used to it by now.
Well, I mean, on a positive note, I'm just being sarcastic, but not really. People that live in colder environments tend to look younger as they age. You know, the same difference as when you put food in the crisper, right? Or things in the freezer with ice baths. And it really helps keep the youthful aspect. We should be pretty good with that. Whereas when you go to some of the other areas, like some of the girls I used to model with, they're always like laying in sun tanning booths or out on the beach and things. And it's like, yeah, you might be a smoke show now, but once you hit 40, you're going to look 90.
Yeah, I don't do cold very well, and I don't do heat very well. So I just need to find like a place that's 78 degrees year round or something.
You sound like a reptile right there. We got to get you in, somewhere in the potential Midwest or down south, eh?
Yeah, something like that. I thought about Hawaii, and then I was looking into Hawaii, and I'm like, no, out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if living on an active volcano is, the most successful plan for future endeavors, eh?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the volcanoes. I'm worried about the prices of everything.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, no, definitely, for sure. That's, I have an aunt, I'm not really that close with her, that lives out somewhere. I don't think it's directly Hawaii. I think it's one of the smaller islands off of Hawaii, but yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Everything's got to be shipped in by boat, or plane. So everything's going to be exorbitant.
Right? No, I got a love-hate relationship with the Northeast. You know, I'm a New Englander. I like hockey. I used to play pickup hockey and played soccer, which that really doesn't have too much to do with the Northeast, but it's just bred into us, especially from Boston. I mean, I just feel like I would be betraying my bloodlines to leave New England. I'm being sarcastic, but like I do definitely love what it symbolizes, but at the same time, yeah, the winters aren't necessarily the best, but again, when you go to those hot areas, then you're dealing with these huge spiders, these crazy nasty bugs, and I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Too.
Well, you got to take your lumps if you're going to move to like a tropical area like Hawaii. I mean, they've got huge spiders, lizards everywhere. I think lizards. But yeah,
too, man. Those giant ones, bro. Look it up. Giant Hawaiian centipedes that go.
No, don't say that. No, I'm never going. No.
They're huge. It looks like something from one of the old school Nom stories where they're holding up a rat that looks like a dinosaur, and centipede or millipede that looks like it should be a giant python.
Yeah, I think they have those giant orb weavers out there too, and those are just. I know they won't hurt you or anything, but they're still creepy to look at. No, I don't. As soon as you said giant centipedes, I'm like, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, ginormous, man. Check them out, dude. It's cool, but at the same time, wouldn't be very cool if it was slithering through your tent or your bed sheets. That's for sure.
Oh, that end up with me getting a weapon of some sort and just beating it to death and setting the house on fire.
That's so funny, dude. So lately, I know you've been diving into the Skinwalker ranch aspect, which we're going to talk about. Besides that, what else have you been diving into? Paranormal stuff lately, or what have you been up to, eh?
We just been doing the podcast. Emergency encounters now, and we were doing the possession of Annalisa. Shoot, I forgot her last name. Super interesting case. This poor girl. Something happened, and she just went through it. And the poor, oh my God, you have to look it up. It's bad. It's interesting, but it's bad.
Dang, brutal stuff right there for sure. Yeah, I'll have to add it to the good old book of things I need to attend to. Sarcasm, I'm not speaking about the book I'm working on. I'm actually speaking about just how I always have a ton of things I need to work on. I do, for the most part, find the time to, finagle it all in. But like tonight, once I get done linking up with you, got some things to attend to, check on the good old sidekick, make sure Swift is all good. Then I need to shower and feast myself. I need to record another podcast, which is excellent. But then after that, I have some cool little slideshow images for my videos I'm working on, because one of my amazing artist friends and also science members, May Koo, has created some beautiful artwork of myself, all decked out in my Boston Bruins gear with sweet vampire fangs and glowing red eyes. So I have to put some pretty cool little informational aspects on those thumbnails. And then after that, I'm going to redo my little intro with those new images. And I'm also potentially thinking about changing up some of the videos in my actual little metalcore intro. It'll still be the same besides that, but yeah, just working on some aesthetic stuff for sure.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Honestly, my friend, it is fun to an extent. I mean, it's still, time consuming and stuff, but I am very happy and lucky that I do enjoy the endeavors that we are on. I mean, yes, editing 15 hours a day is still editing, but just being able to see it come to life on our YouTube threads and our podcasts and things, and realize that we created that, and it is ours. It's really cool to watch it all come to play. I mean, don't get me wrong, after linking up with a guest per se yourself, talking for 45 minutes or so, yeah, who wants to really go back through and listen to their voice again as you have to dissect everything? But it's a part of the game. So, again, it's a catch 22, but I do enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It definitely, like I said, art's fun for me, man. I mean, it still takes some time, but doing the stuff I did for you and Colleen, and creativity in the long run, it really helps me with my own skills. So yeah, ultimately I do need to get myself in a good financial spot in life. But the way I look at things, like when Colleen was ticked off, I wouldn't let her pay for that stuff. I mean, I don't charge my friends and family that help me out with stuff. The reason I say that is because A, it helps them out, which then is a awesome aspect. And there's always a time and place in life when, things can be paid back. It doesn't always necessarily need to be in a currency format. Also, it helps me with my own skills. Every time you got to create something that is out of the realm of what you normally do, which in the past year, the majority of the artwork I do create is Dogman or missing people related. Yes, I do work on some things of myself and Jeremy Swayman for the Bruins, but for the most part, I'm kind of caught up in that. It's a good thing, but same loop of tendencies. I mean, once you draw one werewolf picture, it's pretty easy to make the rest of them, if that makes any sense. Once you get into the, feel of what verbiage you need to choose, what backgrounds, what contrast, it all just starts to become simple, almost second nature. Whereas sometimes when you need to do things out of the norm like that, meaning I don't really pay attention to ghosts too much and law enforcement type stuff. So yeah, having to go in there and create like the city in the background with a fire truck and stuff. Yeah, it's always good, man.
Yeah, so this whole Skinwalker thing, Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I didn't know about Skinwalker Ranch until about 2018, 2019 on a different podcast I was listening to. I'm like, where is this? And it's in Vernal, Utah, which I didn't, I was like, it's the middle of nowhere, Utah. But I'm like, that's just right down the road. That's a day's drive. I could go out there and check it out. We went down there, Colleen and I, we went down there last year for the big Phenomicon down there. And yeah, I think, well, did I ever show you that video of me going outside and on the back porch of this place we're staying at and filming those lights?
Yes, you did. That was actually right around the time I believe we first started becoming hosts and buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wasn't feeling well. So I decided to hang back, and Colleen's like, well, I'm going to jump in the truck and go up to the woods, up to the mountain, and see what I can see. And I'm like, okay. And about an hour or so later, just something popped in my brain and said, hey, go look outside. And I'm like, okay. And I go and step on the back porch, and I look straight across the valley. And up in the foothills up there, yeah, I see, because the video I sent you is pretty much garbage. But from what I saw was this big, bright light just straight across the valley from me. Big, bright light flashing all sorts of different colors. And then a smaller one appeared behind that one and was doing the same thing. And then a little bit after that, a little tiny one showed up right in the middle of them. And then eventually and the little one faded out, and the big one, or the medium-sized one, started to fade out, but that big one just stayed there and then kept coming back, and they kept coming back and forth. And I'm sitting there going, I'm filming that. I'm filming it. And I'm like, what in the heck? And as soon as I started filming it, Colleen hits me up on the phone. She's like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? I'm like, yeah, I'm watching it right now. She's like, get it on film. And I'm like, I'm doing it right now. So, yeah, I think it's, I mean, what are the odds? You go there for a UFO convention and you see a UFO at this, like, this really famous place now. So, yeah, so did you want to do the whole timeline from 1776 or pretty much current?
Yeah, I mean, let's roll up from the past up into the current, and that should eat up our time frame here for sure. And great stuff right there that you had just mentioned. I do know when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch, it's super interesting. I personally do not think it is Dogman that they're seeing. I think it would be way more apt to fall into potential werewolf type lore because of some of the interesting things I've heard, meaning somebody who at one point in time lived there took a huge shotgun, blew off the side of one of these things, and it didn't even acknowledge it, and then it disappeared into some portal. Again, somebody else claimed they saw some sort of a werewolf in a trench coat smoking a cigar or a cigarette.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize. I thought it was an actual spot people would go like post up inside and sleep for the night and stuff, but it's like the remnants of an actual, I guess, cabin at one point in time per se. Yeah, I pretty much found out a lot about this when Travis Taylor and his team did the whole show on History Channel. I've spoken to him a couple times. I would love to get him on here. He's so busy, man. He's an astrophysicist and he works for NASA. He did acknowledge me and said that he thought it was pretty cool stuff I was doing over here. Pretty gnarly, man. I'll toss you the mic if you want to start cranking away on some of this.
Okay, so in 1776, the Dominguez and Escalante expedition travels through Maiton and possibly the ranch. I'm just reading off the list here. In 1851, Chief Wakara is given a vision by the spirit Tuwats to lead the Mormons to the sacred mine. I think it's pronounced Kari Shinobe, to build the temple in Salt Lake City. So in 1880, several bands of Ute tribes were relocated to the reservation surrounding Skinwalker Ranch. Now, way before this, I think it's Cherokee, they were at war with each other for a long time. And apparently this place was like one of the last great battles that they had between the two tribes. And I can't remember which tribe it was, but they decided to get all their medicine men together and do a ritual to become skinwalkers and defend their tribe, like right above the ranch. So that's partly where they got the name. So in 1886, the military finalized construction of a fort in Fort Duchesne, I think it's pronounced. So we're going to jump a little forward here. In 1906 and 1911, underground rumblings and explosions are heard both day and night around the ranch. And that is in a few of these stories. And in 1905, I can't believe this. 1905, Monk Chavanaugh and his wife, members of the Uncompahare Ute tribe, is granted land in 3 lots of Section 5 of Skinwalker Ranch, and that's by Homestead 2 and 3. So I don't have a map pulled up right now. And 1914, Monk Chavanaugh sells a portion of his land to Henry Lister. Lister. And he moves into the homestead of 2 and 3. In 1916, Monk Chavanaugh completely departs the property, and this sort of becomes a recurring theme with the stories. 1915, Christopher Locke recalls a noteworthy occurrence of this is interesting, of a strange visitor to the property. The stranger arrived out of nowhere, was wearing time period appropriate clothing. However, under it was a dazzling blue one-piece outfit. And the only thing I could think of was Fallout. When I was reading this, he asked for water and had a lengthy conversation with the family, and he walked off and disappeared. And it says here, the assumption is that the bizarre figure told the Locke or the Lister family where not to dig on the property. And apparently this story was so amazing it got passed down to future generations and new owners that buy the ranch. So, yeah, you see a guy coming up to you in period clothing. You're not really gonna, think twice of it, but he just appeared out of nowhere, and he had that blue suit, that blue one-piece suit, and it screams Fallout to me. I don't know why. Yeah, okay. In 1930, Christopher Locke, possible grandson, reveals that the first cattle meet occurred on the ranch. 1937, quit claim to John W. Myers and Emma C. Myers for Lot 3 with 160 acres. So I guess they purchased it. Kenneth and 1934, Kenneth and Edith Myers lease a 3-room house on the ranch. They don't know which homestead that is, and they got it from Henry Lister. In 1944, 2 miles from Skinwalker Ranch, a large silver globe-like object is seen flying over Fort Duquesne. So I found that interesting because I've seen a silver globe-like object before. So I got a different theory about that one. But in 1945, Henry Lister sells his land to Benton Locke, who moves into the western portion of the ranch, which is Homestead 2 and 3, 1950s to the 1960s. Junior Hicks and locals report a surge or UFO flap in UFO reports in the Uinta Basin. However, Skinwalker Ranch had little to no recorded activity. However, this is an interesting little note. The ridgeline directly behind Skinwalker Ranch is given the nickname Werewolf Ridge by the locals, and they don't know why. 1961, Benton Locke sells his western portion of Skinwalker Ranch to Edith Child Myers and Kenneth John Myers for $5,000, who proceed to homestead the entire east and western portion of the 512-acre Skinwalker Ranch property. Now, it seems to me that they buy a little plot of land and they're not there for very long. The Myers, that's interesting. So the man before the Myers was there, sold his property to these guys, and they're not there for very long. Yeah, they're only there for 10 years. Yeah, this guy is he was only there for, God, I can't math. Well, he was there for a while, almost 20 years, but so 1967, a wave of UFO sightings occurs in the Uinta Basin that lasts until 1968, which I found interesting. And then we're going to jump to 1970. Cattle suddenly become common in the Uinta Basin and around the ranch. Okay, why? All of a sudden. 1978, the Deseret News article discusses a mass sighting of a UFO seen 10 miles from the ranch. 1981, NASA builds an observatory 16 miles northeast of the ranch, which I don't know why. In 1985, massive chattering power lines are built around the ranch. I don't know what chattering power lines means. 1967, Edith Myers lives alone at the ranch. 1994, Edith Myers passes away. Then her brother-in-law, Garth Myers, sells the property to the Shermans. And here's where it gets famous, right? 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman and their children moved themselves and their cattle onto the 480-acre ranch south of Fort Duchesne. I don't know how to say that. I'll just say the Fort, Utah. So, this is where that story comes into play, right? So they bought the ranch in 94, and the ranch was vacant for 7 to 8 years. The rancher, his wife, and 2 kids were curious about the impressive array of bolts that covered the doors and windows of the main house. There were bolts on both sides of the door. Even the kitchen cabinets had bolts on them. And both ends of the house, iron stakes with heavy chains that had been installed. The rancher guessed that the previous tenants had positioned large guard dogs in the front and back of the home, but he had no idea why. Now, I found this really interesting about having bolts on both sides of your door, and the windows are bolted shut, and the kitchen cabinets. There's a weird story that goes along with this. On the day the family moved their furnishings into the property, they had their first foreshadowing of the events that would follow. They spotted an extremely large wolf out in the pasture. This wolf cautiously made its way across the field, and to the surprise of everyone, just walked up to the family, acted like it was a family pet, which when I first heard this story, that wasn't the case. So I don't know if this is this part is true or not. It had rained that day, and the family remembers the wolf smelled like a wet dog as they were petting it. After a few minutes, the wolf strolled over to the corral and grabbed a calf by its snout, attempting to pull it through the bars. The rancher and his father began trying to get the wolf off the calf, but it wouldn't budge. So the rancher grabbed a .357 Magnum from his truck and shot the wolf point blank range. .357 Magnum is a pretty big gun. And it says the slug had no noticeable effect. I think he shot it. Yeah, the rancher put another bullet into the wolf, which then let go of the calf, but stood looking at the family as if nothing had happened. He shot it 2 more times, and the animal backed off a bit, but didn't show any signs of distress, and it didn't bleed. I would think that unloading a 357 into anything would put it down. Pretty sure. Mystified rancher retrieved a hunting rifle and shot the wolf again. Once more at close range. I do believe it was a 30-30 Winchester that he shot the wolf with. The rancher is not only an experienced marksman, but a big game hunter of considerable repute. Five shots should have been enough to bring anything down. This time, the fifth shot caused a chunk of hair and flesh to fly off the wolf, but it still didn't seem to be phased. He shot it again, and the wolf just casually trotted down the field and into a thicket. The rancher and his father got on their horses and tracked it for about a mile, and they followed it down the creek bed, and then the tracks just suddenly ended. They looked and looked, and it just disappeared. It seems like people are saying that it looked like it just disappeared into a portal of some kind. Returning to the corral area, the rancher examined a chunk of wolf flesh and says it looked and smelled like rotten meat. He made inquiries among his neighbors, but no one seemed to know anything about any tame, oversized wolves in the area. And wolves at this time weren't in the area for hundreds of years. A few weeks later, the rancher's wife encountered a wolf that was so large, its back was parallel with the top of her window as it stood beside her car. The wolf was accompanied by a dog-like animal that she couldn't identify. Okay, interesting. Over the next 2 years, a menagerie of strange animals was reported by family members and neighbors while driving into the ranch on a bright afternoon. The rancher and his wife saw something attacking one of their horses. They described it as low to the ground, heavily muscled, weighing 200 pounds, with curly red hair and a bushy tail. It somewhat resembled a muscular hyena and seemed to be clawing at their horse, almost playing with it. The rancher got within 40 feet of the animal, but says it literally vanished before his eyes. Just poof, gone. They checked the horse and found numerous claw marks on its legs. And a few months later, the wife of a deputy sheriff reported seeing a similar muscular reddish beast running across the property. Another visitor to the ranch had a more ominous encounter in the middle homestead, the same place where I was set out as bait. The visitor, along with the rancher and his son, say they saw a large blurry something moving through the trees. The visitor had been meditating when this thing showed up. It swiftly moved from the trees across the pasture, covering 100 yards in seconds. And when it reached the man, it let out a ferocious roar, something akin to a large bear. A roar loud enough to be heard hundreds of yards away. It wasn't, they said it wasn't a bear. It was nearly invisible, resembling the camouflaged being from the movie Predator. This isn't the first time I've heard about this. The visitor was so scared he grabbed onto the rancher and wouldn't let go. He left the ranch and never returned. Yeah. Other creatures and beings were also seen, including exotic multicolored birds that were certainly not native to the region and could not be identified. There were numerous close encounters with dark, 9-foot-tall beasts that resemble a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. If that wasn't enough, the family claims that other senses were also challenged by assorted weird events. They were often overwhelmed by strong musk odors. The pastures would unexplainably light up at night like a football stadium. They claim to have seen shafts of light that seemingly emanated from the ground. And I'm going to bring up an interesting thing about that. They and the others say that they heard what sounded like heavy machinery operating under the earth. Now, when I was doing the timeline, that came up, but that was a long time ago before these moved in, and they heard voices. Tom, his son, and his nephew remember hearing a loud, disembodied conversation from some unintelligible language. The disembodied male voices spoke in what the witnesses say was a mocking tone and sounded like they were emanating from 20 or more feet above their heads, but didn't see anything. The dogs accompanying the three witnesses growled and barked at the voices, then took off in a panic. There were physical manifestations that aren't really easily explained. While checking on his herd in the third homestead, because they were cattle ranchers, the rancher noticed that someone had dug up his pasture. Hundreds of pounds of soil had been scooped out of the ground. The edges of the hole resembled perfect concentric circles, as if someone had dropped a giant cookie cutter on the pasture. Several smaller scoop marks were also found. Okay, that's definitely weird. The rancher also reported phenomenon similar to crop circles. One formation found in their pasture consisted of 3 circles of flattened grass. Each circle was approximately 8 feet in diameter, and they were arranged in a triangular pattern, with each circle about 30 feet from the others. Keep in mind there's only one road leading into the ranch. Anyone coming in or out would almost certainly been noticed by them or the neighbors. See, and that's interesting. So one of the other stories I've heard about this place is that when they moved in, it wasn't long before really strange things started happening. The wife ran into town to go get groceries, and she came back to the house, and she's stacking groceries on, I think it was the counter, and she's getting in one of the bags. She's putting the stuff away, and when she turns to go put more stuff away, all her groceries are gone. She couldn't find them. Just poof, disappeared. So now she's mad because she has to go run all the way back into town and buy all those groceries again. And when this big wolf-like creature showed up next to her car, I think she was describing it to her son, and her son goes, "That's a dire wolf." And she's like, "What the heck is that?" And he says it's a really big wolf that used to live hundreds of thousands of years ago. There's no possible way that a dire wolf would be living out here. They're extinct. So the next time she's in town, she decides to stop by the local university and ask a professor, what's a dire wolf? What's it look like? And I guess he got a book out, flipped it open, found a picture of a dire wolf, and said that's what it looks like. And she looked at the book, she looked at the picture of a dire wolf, and she went white. And he's like, what's the matter? And she's like, I had one of these next to my car at my house. And he's like, well, that's impossible. They've been extinct for thousands of years. And she's like, yeah, And another thing that was weird is that since these guys were cattle ranchers, they had, what were they? 3 prized cattle. I mean, these were their money makers, and they were in a pen. And next to the pen was a trailer, and the rancher is out there working next to the cattle. He's trying to get them ready to move. I think he was taking them to a different pasture, or he was going to go sell them. And he's working the pasture, and he had to do something. I can't remember if he had to go home or something like that. He only leaves for a split second. Those 3 cattle are gone, just disappeared. And a little while later, he hears something shuffling in the trailer. So he jumps up there and peeks in, and all 3 cattle are in this small trailer, and they are shoved in there so tight that they can't move. Like 3 in a row, scrunched up to each other. They can barely move, and they're panicking. They're freaking out. And so the rancher's like, okay, I got to pop this open and get them out of there. He goes to open the lock, and what did they say? The lock had grass and barbed wire shoved in it, so he couldn't get the lock open. And the whole time, these poor cattle are just freaking out. And I can't remember if they didn't expire or not, but yeah, that was one of the strangest ones. Another one was that the rancher and any one of his family would go out to work the fields or work the land. Their tools would just up and disappear. And remember that part in the timeline where the strange guy shows up and tells the family where not to dig? That's a reoccurring theme. One of the, I guess, when this rancher went out to dig some post holes, he had a post hole digger. He was working the land. I think he was about maybe an hour or 2 into his work. Sets the post hole digger down and goes to take a quick break. Comes back, post hole digger's gone. He looks. He can't find it. He's mad. He has to go all the way back into town, go buy a new one. He comes back with a new one and starts to go back to work. And he looks up in the tree, and there it is. It's sitting at the top of the tree. So that's some of the stories.
Excellent stuff right there by the Dirty Birdy. That is brilliant right there, taking everybody, including myself, from start to finish. I had heard of bits and pieces of that. Now I have been able to fill up the good old brain upstairs with some more quality knowledge. And also, on a humorous note, back to the Magnum reference. We've all played Resident Evil. We all know that you need the Magnum to get out of Raccoon City. So
yeah, 357 would put a heck of a hole in something like that. But yeah, it just sit there and it just ate them bullets. And it wasn't until he got the big one, he's like, okay, I'm out of here. And just
then he chugs. Yeah, no, that's so creepy and absolutely bizarre stuff. To the audience out there, if you do have questions that you would like to ask Dirty about this or myself, put them up in the good old comment section, and I will make sure to forward those on to Dirty, and we'll try to answer any questions for y'all and shed some more light onto this completely bizarre topic. Yet, my friend, you are a busy guy. Is there anything else tonight you'd like to touch base on before we start to tie this up and let you get back to things you need to attend to?
Yeah, come check us out on Emergency Encounters on YouTube. We have a paranormal group that does live tarot readings and all talk of the paranormal on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and that's where we get they talk about stories from first responders from all over the place and their strange encounters. And then we have our live show on YouTube, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and that's where we bring up strange topics and talk about that. But if anybody else out there is interested in this Skinwalker Ranch phenomenon, there's videos, there's websites. Just type it in and go and fill your brain with a bunch of strange, because we haven't even scratched the surface.
Right? Is that not the truth? And excellent plug right there. I do have y'all up on my suggestion list, which to the audience you can see under the Midnight Society. I have that good old podcast up there for you, and I'm going to go through when I get a little bit of spare time and get that new link put into all your old videos as well. So yeah, we'll get everything cranked out and tuning up over there for y'all. If you need any sort of artwork or anything, let me know. I mean, you should be set up with your intro now and some nice content for sure. So
yeah, thank you for doing that for us.
Isn't that what friends, family, and teammates are for, my guy? Got to help each other out. And yes, that is my goal, is to get everybody monetized and help out everybody back that's helped me out. I mean, I got brilliant people like Jessica Jones, Steve Stockton, all the beautiful people that are underneath the Midnight Society that are already monetized, that have given their time back to helping me get monetized. And that's what I'm going to try to do for all of us, so that we get our whole squad doing things that, well, we're interested in, and that can actually spread good knowledge and allow us to work and create content that we enjoy. Beautiful stuff. So make sure, to the audience, you go over and check out Emergency Counters. Like Birdy said, it's going to be up in the description. A little click on the link will bring you right up over there. They're also underneath, as I just stated, the Midnight Society suggestion list down below. Check them out. Dirty is a bi-weekly host. He'll be back very soon. You can also check out our previous content in the good old playlist down below of himself and I. Yes, and we have amazing stuff in the future. And if you do need us to cover some more of Skinwalker Ranch, like I said, let us know. We will definitely dive into it. Yet until then, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society for the early hours of the morning. Unfortunately for us, we cannot hold Dirty Birdy in the fox den any longer. He has things he needs to attend to, and as much as we would love to keep him here forever, it doesn't work like that. We will see him very soon, though. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun to hang out with you on Saturdays.
Oh, my creatures of the night, I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for stopping by tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the truth to the algorithm. And yes, we will catch you on the next one.